It's 7:02, and we're going to do a roll call, who's in attendance. So Carol, if you would say your name to begin.
Carol Gobelinsky.
Okay, keep going. You guys who are Zooming. Okay, Lynn? Yep.
Michael Linder.
Okay, Dick Vandenberg.
Sandy Kuipers.
Heather Moore.
Phil, are you there yet?
Phil Lander.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right, so we have our quorum, and we're going to begin with highway/tree warden department. So John, you want to come to the,
Howard.
and Howard, are you here, Howard?
I am here.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
So what hat you have on now, highway?
Sure, or tree warden, whatever, however you want to do it.
Let's start with highway, okay?
All right, sure.
So John, we have all the budget information in front of us, so you
Okay.
want to give us some of the highlights, some of your biggest concerns or observations?
Yeah, so I went right through the budget in the last few days. I was away for a week in Florida, so we just got back. So I'd like to try to make some changes, try to add to my department a little bit, try to get back to our at least 2010 staffing where we lost some people. So I'll go right down the line in each category, if that's all right.
Okay.
All right, so I'll start out with my my sign account. Last year, we were at $2,750. I'd like to up it to $3,500. Reason being, we did that pavement management study, and part of it was signs that needed replacement and repairs. We're still kind of behind, so I'm just trying to get some more finances so we can do some more work with our signs. You know, stop signs, speed limit signs, what have you, pedestrian signs. So that I raised up by $750.
Okay.
Next, on my highway administration salaries, I'd like to add the $15,000 that we added last fall town meeting to keep my Valley Tech Co-op. This year, we got someone from their mechanic, automotive department to come in, and they work every other week at the highway garage, fixing smaller stuff, and, you know, it's an 18-year-old high school senior, but, you know, I see it as a good benefit, so I'd like to keep that in there as well. Also, I'd like to add one more full-time employee at a cost of roughly $44,000. Again, that'll bring us to 6.5 full-time guys. I count Adam as a half, as I only have him half or less usually because of everything else that Adam does. So again, that'll get us back to our 2010 staffing levels. You know, I'd really appreciate if we could get that going. Also, I'd like to add an on-call person. What we do now, it's either Adam or I are on call all the time. You know, I'd like to, and I did a little homework on this, have a $100 stipend per week for an on-call guy and give him an on-call phone, so Adam or I aren't running out the door all the time, you know, to take care of a sign down, a tree down, you know, any kind of an emergency. And then if that person deems it's more than a one-person job, they would call for more guys, but they would get $100 a week and their 2 hours pay to come do whatever issue, resolve the issue. So that would be $5,200.
What line are you putting that in, John?
Gene, can you?
Overtime.
Overtime.
Overtime?
And also on the overtime account, I'd like to add $3,500, bringing that up to $15,000. Just because in the past year, Adam's salary came to the highway budget, but he's always out doing stuff for the buildings and what have you, and we're running a little bit short. So I'd like to raise that by $3,500. On our, I'm sorry.
Do you think that's adequate? Your overtime, I mean, we love you,
That's all right.
but you're a master of many. And so obviously the town depends on the highway department for a lot of responsibility.
Sure.
to you. So,
This doesn't include winter overtime,
right,
so that was, I mean, it could go up maybe to 5,000, but, you know, I'm asking for quite a bit of stuff here, so I guess I didn't want to be too greedy, but that gets us up to, you know, 15,000 anyway.
Carry on?
Okay. So on my admin account, we added the office trailer rental at $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
The electricity for $200 a month. Also, we've been giving the guys $100 a year allotment for work boots, but after Adam taking these OSHA classes and what have you, the adequate boots that we really need with the steel toe are around $300 a pair. So I'd like to up that from $700 to $2,400. And the other thing on admin is the second cell phone for the on-call guy. Because right now, I'm the only one that has the cell phone through the highway. And that's $680. As far as highway maintenance, I'd like to up our gasoline/fuel, up $7,000 to $36,433, only because of the cost of fuel, and we really don't know where it's going. And under my repair and maintenance account, I'd like to raise that account $17,000 to $50,987. As my equipment's getting older, it's costing me more money for repairs. And that's the 17,000 is what I asked in the last fall town meeting, and it looks like we're going to be pretty close to get us to July 1 on the increase. Those increases total $109,782. I know it's a substantial amount, but I guess if I don't ask and I don't explain, I won't get it, so, you know.
So John,
Yep.
for the highway administration part,
Okay,
so the 421, I didn't get my hand calculator out for that, but what percent increase is that from the current 546 to the 645? Or Matt, do you have your calculator handy?
655, 656, right? It's about a 22% increase.
So it's about 100,000 more.
109,782, right, John?
yes, total, yeah.
And then highway maintenance,
That's the whole, with the maintenance included, with the 109.
oh, okay, I'm looking at the
782.
two different funds, all right.
So then my math is off.
I had 18.16 increase.
So, Gene, are you taking the 546, 588 and the 172, 418?
No, I just did the subtotal, the 546.
John,
So-
you're saying it's the 109,782 crisscrossed both
Yeah.
numbers.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes.
John, when could we expect to see that revised proposal?
You should have it in front of
You
you.
do have it covered.
Or it was emailed this afternoon to the,
No, he has a hard copy.
I misunderstood then. What we've got includes the numbers you're
it does, yes.
So the overall is in the teens, right, in terms of a percentage increase, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So John, when you were starting to work on your budget, did you have any sense of trying to keep the increase within a certain range so to speak, or just, this is what I need?
This is kind of what we need, you know.
Hope for the best.
And I'm trying to get us back up again, the staffing up. I know that's almost half the money that I've asked for, over and above last year.
Sandy, you had a comment?
I do. Just have a question. Where does like the street repair fall in as far as the budget goes? Because our streets are so,
And I can't agree more. You know, there is no money in this budget for any paving. That was taken out when we did the cuts in 2010 and never put back in. We only rely on Chapter 90 money, which we've fallen under a lot of bridge repairs in the last 10 years or so. We're finishing up the last one at Cedar Street right now.
right?
That, half of that cost was through a grant, but the other half was paving money, Chapter 90 money.
Right.
So there is no money in this budget for any street repair.
So street repair should be in the budget.
It should be, yeah, if we could match my Chapter 90 money by $363,000.
Right. If you had
know.
to guess for the year, you know, knowing how bad, there's some roads that are just crumbling
Oh,
out there.
for sure.
Crumbling.
Yep,
If you had to put a number in there of what you need this year to get our roads to the point we're not breaking our tires and
sure.
axles and whatever else.
Well, I'll just back up a little bit to the pavement study. I don't know, I know we talked about it
Yes.
last year.
Yes.
You know, that was at $16 or $17 million, and I'll bet you it's, with the cost of fuel, $22 or $23 million now, and that's just an estimate.
Right, right.
You know, but to get us to fix some of these worst roads, literally $1 million would get us some of it done, but, you know, it's
Right.
$400,000 to do a mile of road from start to finish.
Right.
You know, grind, pave, striping, driveway aprons, some drainage. You know, it's about $400,000 for 1 mile.
Wow.
So,
So we have to put it, in my opinion, I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but I think we have to start throwing a number at this in our budget.
that'd be great.
Yeah,
Because if I had it my way, I'd pave every road that we need to.
right, but, you know, realistically,
So you're saying budget
right,
for road?
Would it be under capital?
the- where would it go?
Budgeting.
Right,
This is a
budgeting,
budget meeting. What better
Exactly,
place to
so
talk
let's-
about that, right?
let's chat.
Mr. Chairman.
Matt, go ahead.
So it is a matter of philosophy where you put paving budget. Whether you put it in the operating budget or you put it in capital. Because it certainly meets the overall definition of capital. That's right, it's a large expenditure, the useful life of the asset is many years. And my experience is that when you put paving in the operational budget, municipal leaders looking to cut the budget for whatever reason go straight to that account because they say, well, that road has lasted 30 years, it'll last one more, so I'll cut the paving budget by 70 grand and you won't do that project this year because I have something that's more important for me. When it's in the capital budget, you look at it vis-à-vis the other assets of the town and say, well, is it more important to fix a roof on a building or a road that gets you back and forth to the building? It seems to fit better in that category. My recommendation this year is going to be that we match Chapter 90 1-for-1, drawing the funds from the capital budget, which would be funded through free cash. So that's $360,000. So the total budget for paving would be about $700,000. I think I could run in my office to get the pavement study, but the number of 14 million is sticking in my head.
It is, yep.
That is the total budget to bring all the roads in Douglas up to the, was that good
road
or
survey.
fair? I think that was to bring it up to the good level.
Good, and I'm sure it's more now because of the price of fuel.
Right.
Because that's what drives the asphalt
Yes,
price.
okay.
So it's a long-term project, and, you know, we've done part of it. So we are using Chapter 90 funds for crack sealing. so that the roads that have reached a certain level of deterioration will last 4 or 5 years
Yeah,
longer
usually
if you
5 to
stick with
6,
it,
yeah.
with that emulsion that's put in the cracks. That can actually really help you then corral the rest of your work project and then work it down. That pavement management study is done by Stantec, which is one of the biggest and most well-known engineering firms in the country. And they went through a prioritization and, a categorization of all the roads and how you could organize them into a budget. I think they said a truly sustainable, because you realize things are aging every year that you're doing things, so things are dropping down. It's a great report. I think they targeted about 1.7 million a year would be what it would take to truly tread water and make progress. Who's that going somewhere? So if we're at 700 some odd thousand, it's better than what we're doing right now, which is.
Right, but it's really not enough.
No.
Okay.
For us who aren't familiar with Chapter 90, what is Chapter 90?
That's state aid we get every year.
And that is for,
Paving, bridges, drainage from
okay,
this,
so
from
it's
the,
earmarked for road stuff.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the match would be from, you're saying there's a match? You guys would match?
No, there's no legal requirement to match.
No, I
I'm saying
know,
that
yeah.
we would, what I would like to recommend this year in the budget is that we match the state's commitment, 1 for 1.
And Matt, where in the budget process would we do that then?
Capital.
Capital, okay.
I don't think it's enough. I just, driving around,
Oh, I can't agree more, and I hate seeing my roads like this.
I know. I
It's-
mean,
It's heartbreaking.
you must be running out of cones.
Cones, and the boys did 9 ton of hot top in the patching
Right.
today.
I know
you
Northwest Main Street's like falling apart still,
Sure,
and it was just
sure.
crack-filled last summer.
You know,
So I really think that number should be higher. That's just my opinion, but I really don't think that matching 1 for 1 is enough.
If we can refresh my memory, I know we got that report for the roads by Stantec, I think you said. Did that do like a risk assessment on the roads to see which ones were the worst, which
Sure.
ones needed to be?
Yeah, it's on.
Gave you the,
and if you want on, I can get you a copy of it, or go on the website, and
I
it's
have a
the,
copy of it, because we received.
we got a copy somewhere along
Last
the way.
Yeah.
Was it
Correct.
just a hard copy? or-
but there's one on on the webpage too, if you want, anyone that wanted to look
Right.
at it.
Right.
Worst to first.
Yeah, it was like 40 pages, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Kind of fell in my reading list.
yeah.
So, I mean, couldn't we
There's a
have
lot of
like a
pictures,
wish
Phil, so it's
wish
really only
list
about
kind
15
of
pages
what
of
we
text.
Oh,
would like,
good.
you know,
I'm a big fan of pictures.
like we could say, yeah, 1 to 1, but if there's any more, we could maybe do a little more for the roads.
So Matt, when we come to the capital part of the budget, are there ceilings or things on what we can put into that in terms of the overall town budget going up? Or is that really the place to fund some of this stuff and
Well,
go big, go long or go home?
Yeah,
new problem, right? What to
Right.
do with free cash. It doesn't last forever. You spend it, it's gone. And there's no guarantee that you're going to certify the same amount the next year. Because there's any number of one-time events that go into free cash. We don't actually sustain a very high pace. And we turn back, it's a well-run town. It turns back about 1% a year from the operating budget, maybe sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. Where we pick up ground is when we have large one-time revenue events, and because we budget revenue so conservatively, there's a pretty good chunk of free cash comes from revenue that wasn't in the budget, wasn't anticipated. That's the prudent way to budget, because you don't want to have an operating budget that's dependent on vague or, inconsistent sources of revenue. You have to be able to count on that every single year. So free cash becomes your nest egg. And the bond rating agencies like to see it at a certain percentage. Combine free cash with your stabilization account. They like to see that a certain percentage of your operating budget is offset in a way, or matched up to reserves that can fund you for a while. So spending down all your free cash isn't advisable. You should always roll something forward so that you have the beginnings of your next project year can be laid out. It's an eye-opening thing to watch capital committee meetings and to see the list that comes in from department heads and compare that to the resources that are actually available to spend. I do this exercise every year. I think last year's request was, I think we started at 13 million. We only had about $1 million to spend. So where do roads fit in with that? Well, they're still pretty high, which is why my recommendation to the capital committee and to you will be that we prioritize roads, because clearly your equipment lasts longer. You know, that's not just us, that's school buses that run every day. Ambulances and fire trucks are expensive. Police cruisers are getting more and more expensive. They're on the road all the time. So you're doing a better job of just managing your own assets if they're not getting beaten up every time they travel down on the street. At the same time, you know, you're competing, because capital wasn't done for a while because of the budget constraints of the town. What you've ended up with is a number of buildings that are in desperate need of repair. We do air quality, we do, does the roof leak, do the pipes leak? We're doing all those basic gut checks, and we're getting a lot of bad results. So that's where people work, and that's where our assets are stored. So those competing priorities are up against the roads. And that's how I'm getting to that number. You know, I think we have, you know, I feel safe saying 1 million or 1.1 million of free cash should be spent on capital needs of the town this year. So you know, longer-term solutions to other problems. So if you take 360 of that 1 million, you've spent over a third of it on roads. Bearing in mind, a fire engine is $600,000. Ambulances are 220. So none of this stuff is cheap. That $1 million goes away really fast.
Any other questions from committee members at this point?
Yes.
Okay, Howard, thank you.
John, I apologize. I think I lost you a little bit there going through the math
That's okay.
of your worksheet. So, again, I took that 109,782 number. I'm trying to understand a little bit what you talked through versus where it appears on my information.
Okay.
I can't find a mathematical event to get to that number. And so one of the points maybe where I can find where I started to misunderstand, we talked about 2 upticks in the overtime number. Is that category 51,300 on the sheet we've got in front of us on page 2, 421?
Overtime is 51.3, but he's
Okay.
also looking at full-time wages at 51,110.
I understand. Bear with me. Yep. So John, if you see, do you have that sheet in front of you?
Yeah.
Or can you reference it with me? 51,300 overtime. And I'm looking at the column for 2022 at 11,250. And then 2023's proposal at 20,200.
Yep.
I think I caught an uptick of 5,200, right, for that on-call person? for
You did.
2 hours, one week, 5,200, right?
Yep.
Taking it from 15,000. And then the other 3,500 that Matt suggested was, I think, that number for what you just wanted for.
Yeah, because I'm in the red in the
Sure.
overtime right now.
So I'm at least, that's an understanding, that's off by about $250, which might just have been your markup, your anticipated bring up before you made the change to the numbers. But am I correct then? So kind of knocking out the 109,782 figure.
Yep.
What we're talking about is with the new requests you're looking at, you're trying to go on total highway department administration from the 546,588 to the 645,859, right?
Right.
And then the section below, the 172,418 to 198,593, right? And I get that number is a little closer to about 126, give or take, 125,
Yeah.
126? Okay, all right, okay. Okay, that's just
Okay.
trying to make
Yep,
sure I
sure.
was following.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my question, John, is, so Highway Administration, your request is an 18% increase, and your highway maintenance is 15%.
Okay, yeah.
And we've been starting with ballparks of, 2 to 3% in various things. So let's say during our public hearing, when we go over this, there's pushback from the citizens of 18% seems like a lot.
Sure.
Do you have a Plan B if they say, look, 18 just seems high in today's environment? But
Well, I mean,
how would you finesse that, you think?
well, I would tell them I would tell them everything that we've taken over since 2010 when they cut that guy out, as well as, I lost the guy, we took over mowing ball fields, building maintenance, what else? What else? What am I missing?
Ball fields, building maintenance,
That's
mowing, well, we mow,
Yeah.
quite a bit.
no, we mow, we now, we mow
Yeah.
everything, which we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't mow all the commons in
Town
town.
buildings.
That we didn't maintain the town buildings.
Stormwater BMPs.
Yeah, the MS4 stormwater regulations weren't in effect then, which they are now. So, we have 800 catch basins to clean, and some of them have to be done twice a year to be regulated in the MS4 regulations. So the work is there, at any given day, we've got a stack of jobs to be done, but only so many guys to do it. If I can get the guy back, that's half the money there, so,
Well, that in addition to the trailer that you have to rent because of safety issues.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and that's,
those, the town's
That's about 20
obligated.
grand a year when you add
Yeah.
everything up right there that should not have been. I know it has to be part of your budget,
Right.
but
Yeah,
no fault of
yeah.
your own.
true
That's
enough. I
part of that
appreciate that, thank
percentage
you.
too as well.
Yeah,
Plus you have all the new buildings, residential, that you have to now go and snowplow and everything else. You have to have people for that. I mean,
it's a
Just the-
trickle-down effect from 2010
You're bringing them back to current to help.
to that
out.
staffing there, yes.
So, I mean, I
Yeah.
think this is pretty defendable, I would say, for the citizens, because they get the best bang for the buck.
John, how many people work for the highway department right now?
Right now, we're at 5.5 guys.
All right, you said Adam is half.
Yes,
Split.
yeah,
So you're just looking for one more person?
that's correct. And that's 44,620. That's a PM2.
Matt, what do you think about the 18% and the 15% increase respectively?
Because unfortunately, Gene is rubbing off on me. I actually calculated everything. It's 142,744 increase across all of these budget functions, which more like 15%. So
You said 144 too?
142,744
So 1427.
from last year to this year. Last year's request, not our actual spend, but
Total 15?
a little bit under 15%.
Right.
So, what I lose sleep over with this department is that so much of its value comes from the knowledge of the people who work there and have worked there for many, many years and served the town in different capacities. Some of them have been firefighters, some have been emergency management. They've worked for highway for a long time. They seem to know where everything is. And when that staff turns over, and we're kind of at that point now, where guys are old enough to retire, you don't just change the face behind the wheel of the truck, you're changing the brain that's organizing the effort. And that's, I know Adam's doing a yeoman's job of trying to put all that knowledge into writing and store it in a safe place, hopefully more than one place, not the highway barn. Just saying. But I think, we're building quite a few roads with these subdivisions. And I don't know how you feel stretched on your plow routes now, but
Oh, we are.
I think you are. I
And the
mean, I
sand
look at the hours that people put in a big storm, and it's clear that the only way they can do 3 or 4 rounds is to work 72 hours straight. So, which isn't safe. That's where it's when you're pushing yourself to the limit where you realize whether or not you have enough to handle the kind of incident that you can expect. A 12-inch snowstorm is not unusual for Douglas at all. I think we've had one every single year I've worked here,
Oh, yeah.
at least one. So we're definitely short and definitely need people. My concern also, though, is where are we going to get them? So are the new CDL requirements going to have an impact on your recruiting?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Can you go through what some of those new
Well,
requirements are?
the CDL requirements now, and even if I was to upgrade, I have a Class B license to go to a Class A, you have to take a safety course and pay for it in order to apply for that new license. And any recruit coming out of the class has to do the same thing. So it's just going to make it more difficult to get a CDL license and make it not so desirable to do that. And this job, I go to the Worcester County Highway meetings. I don't know why, but people don't want this job anymore, and I don't understand it, because it's a great job. But when you can go to Burger King, I see the sign for $17 an hour, and I'm starting guys at 20, and they need a CDL license and a hoist license. What are you gonna, I'm sorry, but a lot of them take the easier path, So in the wage study, that's another whole thing that at some point we're gonna have to do something with. So it's hard to get guys. I've got a new guy that we hired last February. He's working out great. He's a 18 or 19-year-old kid, but he's really doing well. And I have, like Matt said, I've got a guy retiring in September, and I've got 2 other guys that can retire any day they want, but they just want to keep working, So I got to get some young blood in, get them trained, I'm getting closer to the other end of this, So I don't want to leave Adam hanging there by himself with one more job. So, it's hard to get people for this job and to retain them, so.
So Matt, one of the points you've made from a math perspective is, your levy goes up 2.5%. So in one way, the math is fairly simple when you do a budget from one year to another. So when we have one of our departments asking for an increase that's 15%, how does that square with your overall view that you got so much income and you got so much to spend?
So we say we're making sausage in public this year, that's what we're doing. This is not unusual at all. This is, every year has been exactly like this. And I think what you have to get used to doing is listening to all of these requests and then be able to rank order, prioritize them in your mind as to a couple of things: exposure of risk, whether or not we can continue to deliver services at a level that the public expects. Those are probably the 2 biggest things. And, it's that old question, can you make it one more year? Can you make it one more cycle? And, I think the town is to be commended because it made do with basic resources for so long. But you can't do that forever. There's a point at which you just can't do it anymore. People get older, the equipment gets older, the assets that you're working on get older, and at some point it all needs to be addressed. And you can't do it all at once because there is no there. The levy doesn't grow fast enough to allow you to do that. So we focus our effort typically on those things that turn back the most risk and have the greatest impact for service levels.
Other questions or comments, FinCom people?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Carol.
I don't think that the people are going to complain about a 15% increase because everybody's realizing that, we just don't have enough people to even fill the potholes. If you think about it, it's 5.5 people in a department that every single person in the town uses every day. I know the other departments are important, those school departments, but you don't have kids in school, you never use it. The building department, if you're not building a shed or something, you never use it. But everybody uses those roads every day. Everybody sees the problem that we're having, and to have 5.5 people taking care of all those roads is just not enough people. And I think people want to have good roads because they're all using it, and I don't think they're going to complain about 15%.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Anybody else? Comments? Yeah, Phil?
Yeah, all right, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around this quick. So you're looking to get a new person, which goes into your full-time wages, but you're also increasing overtime.
Yes.
Okay. I might have been on a conference call at the time, I might have missed that. So normally I'm thinking like you increase the personnel number, your overtime goes down.
Well, my overtime issue is, I don't know if you probably weren't here for this part.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
I might have been
yeah.
traveling and
So,
I might have not caught everything.
Adam's salary is under highway now. And Adam does a lot of stuff on the weekends and what have you. Since we had the oil spill, he has to come and manually fill the tank every 2 days. And when it's cold out, he has to come in. He gets paid overtime through my budget.
Okay.
Okay, so that's why, we're in the red, and it's, a lot of it's for Adam, for what he does on building maintenance as well.
Okay. And back to the road talk, discussion. Where is, through the chair to the town manager, where is the most appropriate place to, or what body of people might formulate a definite plan on how we dedicate annual resources towards roads? Because 1.3 million or whatever it is we do this year is, again, a drop in the bucket compared to long-term planning. It may even be kind of wasteful if we don't follow it up with a continual actual plan, long-term, to fund this type of thing. And I understand your point, where if you put it in to the operating budget, it gets grabbed and someone says, well, we don't need it anymore. So I guess what I'm asking is what body of people would be the ones to ensure that we have good, stable roads here in the town of Douglas?
Well, Mr. Chairman, your select board is your highway commissioners, right? And they also, in my mind, play the key role in the capital budget, right? So they are involved in appointing a capital committee and then ultimately putting that article on the warrant.
Sure.
And the law specifies the select board not only as the keepers of the roads, but the keepers of all buildings not assigned to any other department of the town. So anything that's not a school department building, water department building, recreational facility, or the library. All the other buildings are in their charge and their keep. So that's why they have such a strong influence over capital. I've told you what my recommendation is. It doesn't mean that the select board's going to agree with that as the most effective use of capital. Again, it's a process of public decision-making, of weighing costs and benefits.
Yeah.
And the other part of this that I don't want to lose sight of is how many projects can we do in a year?
Right.
I know John would love to have, all $14 million, but we could never get all the asphalt.
No.
We wouldn't be able, there's not enough days in the year to pave 86 or even 90 miles of road, right? Just a small way. I suppose you could do 90 miles if you really had that kind of throw with the industry, but no small town ever
No,
will.
no.
So you're trying to pace out not only the need, but your ability to do the throughput. The best time to do building projects is during the building construction season. The best time to do roads is when it's not freezing or raining torrentially. So really, your best time to do roads, John, is what? April through?
Yeah, April through.
October?
October, yeah. You can get some good days in November, yeah.
So at this point, there is really no sustainable plan for roads or anything like that. The select group has not come out with any permanent understanding of how they're going to consistently fund this and make it work.
Well, to their defense, this is probably the first year we've had a free cash number certified that's high enough to be able to even have that conversation. We try not to give people projects where they're making plans in the air.
Yeah.
For the foreseeable future, for the next 2 to 5 years, I don't think it's a risk to say the town has the opportunity, I'll put it that way, the town has the opportunity to recognize unprecedented growth in its tax base and have that, call it an inundation of revenue over those next 2 to 5 years. And that's where our system of government is so important, because it's participatory. People have to step forward and say what they think is most important to them as the revenue becomes available to actually do the projects.
I get it.
So what do I think? I think that of the $14 million overhang, if we get started, we might be able to do 4 or 5 million of it over the next 4 or 5 years. We have a however many $1 million overhang in buildings and other vehicles. You're going to get to a large part of that because you just can't operate the town without plow trucks. Even the things that we bought not that long ago, I mean, hot box doesn't last forever.
No, right.
And it shouldn't be run into the ground, because at that point, it's so hard to work with it, it's actually a terrible use of people time. So that replacement schedule has to be in place as well. It's not just, oh, we're done now, we bought a hot box, oh, we're done now, we bought a wood chipper. Well, in about 8 years, those assets might start to need to be replaced. The capital budget is best if it keeps up with that, too.
Yeah.
So that's, I can only explain scarcity in so many ways, but
No,
the fact is, we're trying to get 20 pounds of you-know-what into a 5-pound bag.
I just, from my standpoint, I'm always looking to say, all right, well, there's a lot of need right here. Right now, we got to get this done. Where's the trade-off? Where's that coming from? I haven't seen it yet, so that's just my thought. The other thing is, through the chair again, what do we do with excise taxes?
You're in the revenue budget.
Because those are kind of, I was always told they go for the roads too. Is that not something?
Well, now, wouldn't that be a thing? What's our excise tax that year over year?
Well, it just seems to me, I mean,
Right.
it's for your car.
Right.
So you're paying for your car every year, and I thought it was to keep roads up.
The excise
But that might have been a fib told by
is part of the local receipt that funds the operating budget.
Okay, so it just goes into the till.
Yes.
Okay.
And about how much is the excise?
Stolen or lit on
Over a
fire.
million.
Right.
How much?
Over a million.
It's over $1 million in excise taxes. Yeah.
Over $1 million, wow. Whew. That'll pay for some roads.
I just heard that we're getting $1 million for roads. Thanks, Phil.
You can surely see that, I just suggested an idea. I didn't.
Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully suggest that the day the lottery comes in and gives us a check for our schools and our roads is the day you can have the excise tax.
I just know that the most visible thing out there as a reflection of the government and serving the people is that if they don't have roads that are decent, that kind of pisses people off.
Oh, we're taking a beating, trust me.
And it's
Yeah.
not to your disadvantage.
I know.
It's just like you don't have any money to get to.
We're
and-
taking a
and
beating right now.
The easiest way to piss people off is to have bad roads. And it reflects poorly on town. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yep.
may, because it is topical. part of the problem is the way they built the damn roads 40, 50 years ago.
Absolutely.
They didn't do it right. So I challenge you, go to rural New York, Herkimer County, Schoharie County, any place you want to go out there and go on a county road. It's absolutely gorgeous, mirror smooth. You want bad weather, you spend a day in continental New York with snow, lake effect snow coming in one direction and ocean effect snow coming in the other, and they're plowing these great big heaps of snow, and they're banging on the roads with everything, and the spring comes and you never know. Because they laid,
They all got a horse and buggy, that's it.
but you go out there and you see the way they laid out the roads, they built the proper foundation with all the gravel and everything else, and it sits this high off the edge, and they manage the storm water so it doesn't sit on top of the road.
Yes.
This year is like taking a jackhammer to every asphalt surface. It's 50 degrees one day, it rains, the next day it's 10. And so the ice expands and it pops the roads.
And the river's running through it all.
For the construction, because it's already broken up.
It makes it more expensive to do the work, but
Nightmare year.
it's a much,
High and low, high and low. high and
You
low.
know it.
it's a much longer lifespan if you build it properly. So you can, Northwest Maine is probably an example of a road that wasn't properly built. South Street
Sure.
definitely was not done right.
Yeah.
I mean, take a look at Southwest Maine from Main Street to Wallem Lake. We did that about 5 or 6 years ago with a good base and a top, and it's smooth as glass still. You know, it's in really good shape. It costs more money, but it's going to last.
You pay now or you pay later?
That's right.
Talking about putting sidewalks in when we do the roads.
Is somebody talking? 'Cause
Okay, we're going to move on, everybody.
Yeah, there you go.
So, any other questions from the FinCom about the highway budget? Gene, you have a comment on it or not?
I share John's concern with getting staff and retaining staff. I think that's going to be a challenge for all positions in town, just with the minimum wage, the differential between the minimum wage increase and our bottom steps are just getting, the delta's getting smaller. So I think that's a challenge where all departments are going to face. We're facing it in the principal assessor's office as well. Just a comment about the percentage. I have a sign behind me. I keep telling you there's a story behind the numbers. I don't think you can compare his 15% to another department's percent. He did take a cut. I was here in 2010. I was here when Adam was taken. With the Piper's promise that we'd bring those back when money became available. And there's always conflicting needs. So he has been working short staff for quite some time. So I appreciate everything they do with the highway department, as all departments. I think, Douglas's greatest resource is its staff. They really have come up to the challenge. We've worked hard, and, hopefully he'll get some relief there.
Okay.
One other
Sandy?
question. Is there a list of like your assets for the highway department that you have to maintain? Like, just so we have a general idea, like vehicles or?
Oh, sure, we can get that to you.
Yes, that would be great, thank you.
No problem.
All right, we will carry on then. So thank you, John,
All
for
right.
that.
All right.
Are you going to do tree warden too?
I'll do tree warden, yep. So,
Not a lot of change there. it looks
no,
like.
not a lot of change, still a lot of dead trees in town. We are plugging away, thanks to National Grid helping us out. In the last calendar year, we were able to take down 272 very large, dead, dangerous trees in town. I still have more to go, a lot more to go, and I still have money left from the $50,000 that we had gotten at the fall town meeting. But
So it looks like you're not asking for an increase then.
no, not at this time. I still have money to spend, and I'll have my money in July 1, and then I'll visit you folks in the fall again.
Okay.
Most of my tree work, the guys like to do it in the wintertime, which I'm fine with that,
Okay.
my subcontractors.
Matt, comment?
Didn't we identify, how many trees was it when we had the random count? It was like 1,700,
Yeah, it was like almost 2,000 trees.
almost 2,000 trees. So
We're plugging away,
we've done 10, 15%
yeah.
of the,
And
you
Grid
drive
has been
around.
very gracious. If I get in a jam, and they'll come out and help us as well. And sometimes I'll give them a traffic guy, and, they'll take down a few of our trees as well, and some stuff trees that they need to take down, so we have a good relationship with National Grid.
What makes a tree go on that 1,700 tree list?
It's in the town's right of way, and it threatens a utility wire.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's-
Any questions from folks on Zoom?
No.
Okay. Matt, you had another comment, or, sorry?
It's just kind of, there's been a lot of good stories written in the last week in the media about the overall resiliency of our grid and sustainability of the grid. As we all become more and more dependent on electrical appliances, our cell phones, our computers, our cars, loss of power is going to be hugely disruptive, more than it ever was when we were all growing up. And we all need to be mindful of that. If we get too far behind here.
Leaving?
Okay, thanks, Phil. You know, the consequences are much more significant on people's quality of life.
I have a question. Is there any, like, bylaw or anything like that that talks about allowing trees to grow by the side of the road on your, like, maintaining your own property so that, you know, say you have trees this big right now, they would become a problem in the future, preventing what we're experiencing now?
I don't believe we can, I mean, if it's hindering a sight line or whatever,
Right.
we can remove them under Chapter 87 of the
Okay.
Mass General Laws,
Okay,
you know, but I don't like to cut healthy trees if we can help it.
right, but they
You
turn
know,
into a problem.
I get it,
Right,
you
so,
know, but everything I focus on is dead oak trees, I guess that's all I see in my
Right.
mind now.
right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm thinking of the future, like
Sure,
our
I get it, yeah.
future
Cut
generations
some
are going to
brush.
have the same
And-
issues.
And that's why we have the brush subcontractor come in every summer to
Okay.
keep that stuff back as much as we can. We do more than half the town every year.
Okay.
We rotate,
You wrote,
know,
so
what
you do go
street-
through the
We
town
do.
every,
Oh,
okay,
yes.
great,
Yep.
great,
We do,
okay.
yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gene, anything on tree warden?
No, I'm good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Anybody else, questions or comments? John, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
John.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Adam, half a guy.
Half a guy. That's it.
That's-
No,
we
the
should
first
take it.
half is,
Don't take me half as long.
the first half is leaving,
That's
the other
it.
half.
Yeah, exactly.
So Justin, you're next, okay? Yeah.
You're a full guy, Justin. Stay here.
All right, so you have the floor, Adam, all right?
Sure, so I have just a few changes I'll go over on the budget. So I'm just going to go down my accounts. So 52101 electric, I went up $5,000. We added vehicle charging stations out here, and my electric bill is going to go up because of them. I did remove the $5,000 from my account 52400 repairs and maintenance. I took it out of there and just put it into that account. The 52906 custodial services, we didn't have a line item for that. We started a custodial company since Ricky Colinero left. He retired. We hired a custodial company, so we added that line item, and I basically just took the funds, the 14,000 out of 53008 contractual services. I took 14,000 out of that and put it to the custodial services, and then we had to add 2,500 to that to make it the 16,500. And the last one I changed was telephone. We added 1,700 to that number. Telephone's gone up a lot in this past year, so we felt the need to make a change there. Everything else is the same. I haven't had to make any other changes, so it's pretty simple.
It looks like overall about 4%.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
how you?
I would say, I think Gene said, what is it? We went over overall percentage, was it 3?
3.8?
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about. Correct.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Matt, you're up next. You have a comment or question on public building maintenance as proposed?
I think Adam has one other sheet he'd probably like to go through.
Oh, the repairs? Yeah, that's fine. I have I'm sure you
right,
have
yeah.
all my list of repairs. I always try to give everybody a copy of my capital list and what repairs that, I make lists and I cross things off all year long and
Yep.
add different things to it, things that we want to repair. And so there's several lists, unfortunately. The capital item list, what I'm going to look for this year through capital, for all the repairs that I have and things that we're going to hopefully accomplish Some of them are as simple as just, cleaning up like the old fire station around the outside, to some step repairs and stuff like that, concrete repairs. So you'll see, like, this is just a list that I keep running for myself.
Yep.
I gave you a copy of the heating oil usage, where we're at. We're at a great price this year at 2.499. Matt went out to bid, and we had an awesome price this year compared to what it is right now. And my last list that I gave you was projects that we completed and projects that are upcoming. And we have a lot coming up. I mean, I know the last 2 years with COVID, it's been touch and go with contractors, but this year we have a lot coming up between main roof replacements, the new generator that we're working on for here, and gym window replacement, some AC units that are on the roof here at the second floor of the municipal center. So there's a lot of big projects coming forward. And I know when Matt was talking about how much can you do in a year, we're going to be tied down. It's a lot. So that's the other list that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Then I'm all set. Thank you.
So Matt, you have anything?
Just on the electrical charging stations, he's going to show the cost. We are going to show miscellaneous revenue in the revenue budget. I know everybody wants green stuff to be free. There's no such thing as free. Electricity is not free. The good news for people who want to charge their car here at the municipal center is that the town spends a lot less than you do at your home for electricity. There's a couple of reasons for that. Our price doesn't float with the natural gas markets. So if you're a subscriber to National Grid, you're paying the seasonal rates. So in the winter, it's very expensive. Right now, it's 14.7 cents a kilowatt hour. The town has long-term commodity contracts. We lock in prices. We're in the year 3 of a 5-year long lead electrical purchase contract. So our actual cost is just about 9.97 cents. We also have a solar farm that we take credits, so 20% off our bill. So we're actually going to charge people at the electric charging station 7.7, maybe 8 cents a kilowatt hour, which is far less than it would cost them to charge their car at home. And if it just defrays the cost a little bit, it makes the asset usable for everybody, because we don't want to have to turn the things off, right? So we do have a steady stream of people who have already started using them. So probably the April timeframe, we'll start charging people. We'll let this go for free for a little while, and people know that it's here. But electricity overall, our solar credits are good for a while. As good as long as the solar panels are producing electricity. In future, this is an item that even if we knock down our usage considerably, the cost in the budget will still grow. Because electrical markets at one time had a blend of sources: nuclear, coal, natural gas, and then green energy for wind and solar. As the coal plants are shut down aggressively and quickly, and the nuclear plants are being decommissioned because they're at the end of their useful life, a lot of the electricity that we get in New England is going to come from natural gas-fired plants and hydro, to the extent that everybody up north of us allows the hydro to come in from Canada, because there's a big fight over the wires. This constrains natural gas supplies in the winter considerably. Number one priority for the industry is home heating. Once home heating is taken off, the next group that's allowed to buy what's left of the supply is electrical generation. So they spend a lot of money getting natural gas. And that's why your prices go up in the winter. In future, unless we have more solar, more wind, better access to hydro, natural gas prices will continue to go up. It will continue to be extremely volatile, and we will have to have these long-term contracts in place and take that. In year 5, there's a little bit of risk associated with locking in a price, but the 5 to 10 year time horizon, we're not going to see 9.97 cents in 5 or 6 years. It's going to be substantially more than that. So our solution, of course, is to cut back usage, you buy more and more efficient things, and try to manage it that way.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Matt. Anybody on Zoom, any questions at this point for Adam? Or any of you around the table? Comments or questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Justin. So the library,
A library.
looks
To
like
get to the library, you need good roads. So, the first thing I want to say is, those guys deserve every penny you can throw at them. No one going on vacation affects me except Adam. If Adam goes on vacation, I've got a whole extra checklist of things that I've got to also do. But anyway, on to the library. Did everyone have a chance to look over the little packet I sent? So I don't want to just, read it verbatim, but I do want to highlight
give us the highlights.
some of the value that we provide to the community. 18,800 books were borrowed in the last complete fiscal year, which was FY21. And you put a cash value on that. How much would it cost if Douglas residents had gone and bought them themselves? It's $319,600. It's an easy, quantifiable service point. Ebooks and audiobooks, we circulated 12,000 for a value of 180,000. Research database sessions, that is the number of full-text academic articles which were downloaded, either by people doing research on, the, best value or cars, most fuel-efficient, appliances, or, school kids doing research, with our statewide databases. And that's a significant value of $140,000. So, this doesn't include this, we loaned 46,117 things to Douglas residents. The 7,022 physical items we sent out an interlibrary loan to our sister communities, and 20,000 digital loans we also shared, as well as the soft services, as book clubs, story times. Our community space is starting to get used more extensively as, the Omicron recedes. And so, there's all those other aspects that go into it as well. The trustees augment the budget that we get from the town with private funds, grants, donations, that sort of thing. But the point of this first page is just, that figure of for every dollar the town invests in the library, you get a value back of at least $2.66 in quantifiable services. And that isn't just, we had a conversation a few years ago about, is this a bunch of people using the library a little bit or just a handful of households using it a lot? And in the fiscal year 2021, we had 3,757 active individual patron cards that were used to borrow items in that year. So, we do have, patrons who make use of it far more than others. We have our super patrons, we have our friends at the library, but the value is spread out over households, primarily kids too. Kids check out a lot, and families with kids check out a lot. Although no one has talked about the municipal appropriation requirement now in 5 years, in transparency, I feel like, it needs to be brought up. Our MAR, and I don't know if everyone's familiar with it, that's what the Board of Library Commissioners says you have to be funded at, or else you lose your state certification, other libraries don't have to borrow to you, and we lose our grant money. That funding floor is $256,053, or $256,053. And the other number people talk about is minimum net school spend a lot. This is the equivalent of that number. And it drove our budget up until the override. Every year it was, this is my MAR, this is what I'm asking for. Since then, we've been more service-oriented, trying to meet the needs of our patrons, and we have not really deviated from the 5-year budget plan that was proposed the year the override passed. And this is the last year of that, isn't it? Again, this year, there's no deviations except for an addition of $2,000 into the personnel lines for the longevity bonuses, which I don't think are optional. I think the Board of Selectmen voted, that anyone who's worked for the town for more than 10 years gets a $1,000 bonus.
Town meeting voted it.
Town meeting voted that. So I am asking for an increase in my personnel line item to that, so I don't have to, cut their hours to give them, a $1,000 bonus. So, yeah.
Thanks, Justin, for looking out for us like that.
Well, I mean, like, if it wasn't for that, then we would be on that 5-year track.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
so that's why I'm mentioning it. The salary, that figure is me. Full-time wages is our children's librarian and circulation librarian. Part-time wages is a library assistant and archivist, as well as a page. The electric is kind of set at a number which we have not spent that much, I don't think, over the past couple of years, because we're still sort of figuring out how the credits work with the solar farms. I don't know what our electric bill is going to be. I never know. It's 0, and then it's 1,500, and then it's 0 again.
It's all Gene's fault.
And it's all Gene's fault. Heating oil, we don't use a whole lot. It just augments our mini splits, because we use the Matt Got Green Communities grant funding to put in hyperheat mini splits lately, which is why our electrical line item went up and our heating line item basically disappeared. But I've still got to use some to keep the boiler running, to keep the hot water going, and not only fill up the tank once a year and get yelled at by people who think the oil goes bad. Water sewer has been pretty much the same. $1,000 repairs and maintenance is to service the mini splits. Other property-related expenses is our fire alarm and our security alarm. The CWMR's assessment is what we pay for our integrated library system, and it bears worth talking about that since it's the biggest line item besides circulating materials. That gets us our integrated library system. It gets us into delivery, and that is a huge value for its money, because if we were to privately play for like Innovative Millennium to come in and do all of our loan management, because we have to keep track of patrons, we have to keep track of collections, who has what, when it's due, how overdue it is, that would be easy $20,000, $25,000. But CWMRs gets grants from the state to make it cheaper. We get small libraries and network grants that make it cheaper. And there's like a whole bunch of line items in the MBLC that all sort of feed into these library consortia throughout the state. So it's a very good deal. Telephone, we have a telephone line, we have a fax line, and then we have to have another dedicated line for the alarms. Postage is, sometimes we do have to physically send books back and forth if we're borrowing, if a patron wants to do research on something and the closest library that has it is in South Carolina. Sometimes we have to pay to, ship the book back. They ship it to us, we ship it back. Other services is Wowberry, which is an innovative solution in interactive sciences, I think is the name of the company. And they have not raised their price on us in 25 years in the time that they have been doing what they do, and that is aggregate what is brand new to the collection, and then everyone can subscribe to a newsletter that's like, hey, what's new? So I don't have to trawl through a collection of 3 million titles, what was added the last week or the last month and the topic I'm interested in. It automates a Facebook post every week that'll say there's 75 new bestsellers and 250 new kids books, and if someone just donated a whole lot of DVDs to the library, 1,030 new old westerns. It just depends. Custodial supplies is custodial supplies. Circulating materials is split between physical books, digital books, a couple streaming services that we subscribe to, so that patrons can have access to free digital content. We use Canopy, which provides documentaries, award-winning, good stuff. And we also we were using CuriosityStream, but I'm not anymore because it just wasn't getting the use I wanted it to and didn't deem it worth the expense. Other supplies is kind of like office supplies, but just like the random tidbits that they're not really office supplies, but, are necessary for library operations, like, book barcodes, protective jackets, media storage cases, that kind of stuff. Because, you get a DVD in a flimsy cardboard box or something, we want to rehouse it before we start loaning it so it doesn't get destroyed. So that brings our personnel total, operational total, all set together to $272,748.
That's about a 2.6% increase from last year. Does that sound right?
I think it's according to Gene, it's 3.4790.
Okay.
Really? Are you sure?
Well, she rounded up on the list.
Okay, I must.
It probably was 2.5 before longevity bonuses.
Oh, maybe, okay.
I'm gonna go with Gene's number.
Thanks for the vote of confidence, so
You blind them with digits, Gene.
Is there any questions or comments about
it
that?
was actually my percentage sign he's reading, isn't that?
Yeah.
He'll
Oh,
do
okay.
that twice.
So
Oh,
Matt,
that does look like a 9-0.
Yeah, it
yeah,
does.
we'll start with you, Matt. Any comments or questions?
No, this is a bare bones budget. There's not a lot of stuff to talk about.
Okay. Zoom people, any questions? Around the table here, Sandy?
I have a question. On repairs and maintenance on your mini splits, what do they do for $1,000?
So the mini splits are, it's 4 compressors outside the building connected to 9 units inside. So they come in and they clean all the media filters. They clean the tubes, the hoses.
Okay.
And then they, I don't know what they do to the outside units. I don't know if they require oiling or whatnot. I know it was recommended that we do it every year. I did skip it one year and ended up having to get on a ladder on the outside and
Right.
suck gunk out of tubes.
Okay,
So bad things happen if we don't do it.
okay. No, I just, so it's once a year they come out, and that's the only time we clean the filters and the
Yeah, well,
inside?
we clean them what we can
Yeah,
get to, but
okay.
there's more parts that are in the wall. So the mini
Okay.
splits connected to these little tanks that
Okay.
have filters in them, and
Yep.
then they have chemicals, and mainly it's the outside part, like
Okay.
the actual compressors, because I don't know what they're doing out there.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else around the table? Gene, comment or question?
I agree with, this is a pretty straightforward budget.
I have a question.
Howard?
For another day on their follow-up on it, but is your building protected by a historical foundation or anything? Is it a historical building?
It's part of a historic district, but it's not a historic building.
Okay.
I don't know precisely what that means.
Historic district is a collection of historic buildings.
15 years ago, the town had the opportunity to get a giant grant to replace the building, where the government was going to come up with 2/3 of the money, and we came up with the other third.
That was through the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, I think, which isn't related to the Historic Commission or the Historic District. That is the MBLC has an ongoing grant cycle for library building and construction. And right now, I think libraries that applied and got, project planning grants 5 years ago are still waiting to be funded. There's always a wait list, and then, once that wait list dwindles down, then they'll start a planning grant round, which the town went through once and spent a lot of money on, creating, the big, the plans that were going to take up the whole plot of land. And that got voted down.
By the town, the town's portion, yeah.
But I don't think that was necessarily such a bad thing, because the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners is, they do a lot of good work, but I don't think that their building and facilities construction program is one of those things, because it's too oriented towards what libraries are like on the seaboard next to Boston. In order to qualify for those grants, you have to build a massive, massive space. For a town this size, we would have to have a separate lockable room that could accommodate an audience of 250 people, because they think a library needs that. We would have to have, so many miles of shelving in the building to house a theoretical collection that has 25 years of room to grow, because they feel like the library needs that. We don't need those things. We don't even want those things. We just want a handicap accessible building that makes the best use of the space we already have. And especially as more and more of our use is going digital, it doesn't make sense to grow a building and turn it into more of an operational albatross. That was one of the first things, on my presentation to the Capital Improvement Committee tomorrow. One of the first things I did, because the trustees hired me in 2015, my whole interview was based on, you need to ram this building project through and get us a handicap accessible building. So the first thing I did was meet with the chairman of the Board of Library Commissioners and their building specialist. They came out, I pitched to them what we were proposing, and they said there's no way they'll fund that. They said a project of the scope, for a town our size, the requirements we would need to meet, the checklists that we would have to, get through. I mean, it would be between a $10 and $14 million building renovation. And I don't realistically ever feasibly see that happening. So we kind of just said bye-bye, and are trying to raise $400,000 ourselves that we can use on a planning process, and then present, something to Capital Improvement Committee that is much more bare bones and basic, without all the extra bells and whistles that they feel like you need to have in Newton.
How's that going, the 400,000?
We are...
Did you talk about that somewhere?
$126,222.06 of the way there. So I think that's 31.5%.
Okay, good.
Of the way to $400,000.
Anybody else, questions or comments for Justin?
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate the explanation to me. That was actually very thorough.
Oh, awesome.
Hit a lot of my points. Thank you.
Anything else, just ask.
Great bang for the buck.
Okay, thank you, Justin.
Okey doke.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not as exciting as highways, but
Depends.
It's pretty exciting.
the Central Turnpike is getting really bad in Sutton.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to carry on with our agenda. Before we hear from Matt, I put number 5 in here as just kind of a catch-all, but does anybody have any comment or question on the budget process so far? Just how we're doing, how it's scheduled? Are we overlooking anything? Are we missing something?
I do.
Okay, Howard?
Based on a comment you made earlier tonight, Matt, has it been your experience in the time you've been here that Board of Selectmen prioritizes things coming out of the recommendations of the Capital Committee, or the Capital Committee makes recommendations, the Board of Selectmen, for the most part, is chosen to defer to and adopt?
Exactly that.
The latter.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody on Zoom have a comment or question just on the process so far? Everybody
All
good?
good, Dick.
Okay, all right. All right, Matt, what do you have as an update for us that's budget related? Anything we need to chew over?
Nothing's jumping out. I'm still working on finishing up the spreadsheets that we can share.
Okay.
And as you see things being added, you'll see the effect it's having on the bottom line.
Can we morph right into the Sharepoint? I have that on the agenda as next.
Yeah, we can. So one of the things, though, that I need to do in order to be able to wrap this up in the next couple of weeks is this compensation discussion and the table, actually wrap it up in a month. And that, it's not an easy task because it's a moving target. There's a lot of wage inflation finding its way through municipal government across the Commonwealth and other jurisdictions, Massachusetts, Connecticut and Rhode Island as well. And that's what we're up against. That's what we're competing for, a very small pool of qualified and experienced individuals. And So when I go out and try to do some comparisons against comparable communities, you're going to make sure the data's up to date, because I see some of these communities going out to advertise, and they're advertising with the wage rate that would have been compelling for a job 3 or 4 years ago, the last time they replaced it. And you just know they're not going to get any applications.
Or even 1 year ago.
Even 1 year ago. I think what it's boiling down to is that none of these jobs now can be filled by people who are in the first couple of years of college or got a high school education and then just want to go work. You heard John say, I think a lot of people in their mind, they think highway workers are just laborers, right? They're guys that take shovels full of hot mix and stomp it into a pothole, and how much skill could go into that. Every single one of those people has a CDL and a hoisting license, and they have to do all their OSHA certifications. So they have to be trained in order to operate safely in their context. The same lecture with the fire department, right? A paramedic is now it's almost an associate's degree, frankly, to get your paramedic cert. So there's a lot more to this now, and you see the labor force now, it's scarce, it's a seller's market. So some of the salaries are getting pretty extraordinary. So I'm trying to work that in to this overall framework. The last thing I'll say is that, and it's not about this operating budget, it's more about just the overall financial outlook for the town. These supply chain problems are real. They are starting to hit us pretty hard. So I feel like, I know I use the image all the time, but I feel like Klinger from MASH, because I'm trying to trade this for that on some,
You're not wearing
ham radio.
You're not wearing a dress.
I'm not going to dress up like Minnie Pearl to do it. But, so this tonight I'm on the phone with a pipe vendor that successfully bid on our invitation for bids for the water main extension from Gilboa to Uxbridge. And the leading manufacturer of pipe is 500,000 running feet of pipe in deficit against their orders. So they're more than a full year of production behind fulfilling their orders. And generators now are starting to talk about lead times of 12 months. So I feel like one of the pressures that we are beginning to run up against is the need to make things work for a while, because even if we have the money, we can't get the stuff we need. So there's, an example of that is we haven't come to a conclusion yet on what to do with the highway barn and how to approach the whole housing of public safety departments. So we've got to the point where we can't keep people inside that building, so now we have a rental, right, with the electricity that goes along with it. That will happen more and more if these supply chain issues don't resolve. So, food for thought.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Anybody have a comment on SharePoint? Working, not working?
I can't get it to work. I looked at documents that Gene, I went into the link that Matt sent earlier today, and I reviewed all the documents that you guys have printed out, but I don't even see a SharePoint icon for me to click on. And when I went on it before, it was there, and now it's gone. And when I did it before, there was nothing in there when I went to SharePoint. So I'm really an idiot when it comes to computer technology, apparently. So maybe I need to stop by the town hall and, get a tutorial from somebody.
What do you recommend
So,
for Lynn?
For the next week especially, because I had planned to go away and then I'm not going to, open door policy, right? So if you're doing this stuff on a laptop especially, bring it in and we'll go over it. And if I can identify problems, I can bring to the IT guy to work on, if I can't solve it.
You have a laptop, Lynn?
I have like 3 laptops and 2 desktops.
So as long as as long as we can log into your account, you could actually even use my computer, because it's about your account, it's not about what computer you're on, we could do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Mike, how are you doing on SharePoint?
I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little old fashioned and I appreciated the getting the stuff emailed to us. With my full-time job, I do not have time to log into another system to download and print things off, so it's
Okay.
just not happening, I'll be honest.
How about you, Howard? How you doing on SharePoint?
I'm going to reserve the 5th. Take the 5th. I'm marking up the check for $100.
Okay. Okay. And you're good, you guys are good with SharePoint, okay?
We'll figure it out when we need to figure it out.
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't.
I'll
see
continue
that.
to send out the other emails.
Yeah, I'm confident that when I don't see that I need it yet.
Okay.
But, as more numbers fill in, we're where it's time to do some horse trading, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and I think we'll have more decision support tools for these meetings. We had gone out to price out, one of these large smart board things that you could wheel right up to the table and we could actually physically change it
Yeah.
in a meeting, big enough where everybody can see it. It's not up on the wall like this TV. The price was ridiculous. We did some additional research and were able to cut it down to about 30% of what it was going to cost us if we bought it through a statewide contract. We're just piecing it together ourselves. So that's well within the parameters of what we had budgeted for it. So that should arrive hopefully in the next month or so and
Okay.
be available for decision support for all of our boards and committees, not just this one.
So can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yep.
All those papers I see on the table in front of you guys, are those the documents that Jean emailed us through the site that we have access to?
Yep.
I did send a separate email. I printed those out because not everybody brings a computer with them. So those are in attendance. I think I'm just printing 6.
So Jean is generally undermining the effort to stop using all this paper.
I think it's over. Right on point.
I
Keep
think
up the
I'm
good
trying
work.
to help our
Because I was going to say, if we just come to the meeting in person, we get the documents, do we really need SharePoint? I don't need to play around with that spreadsheet. I'm just going to go by what he does.
Matt, have you caught part of the conversation where the populace is older and is aging out and will be replaced by younger people? Those people will know how to use SharePoint without you telling them.
Except for us.
We taught our 86-year-old mother how to use an iPad and send emails and download videos, so,
You're a brave soul.
yeah, well, she's doing it.
All right.
She accidentally FaceTimes me every couple of days.
Okay.
but-
All right.
All right, we're going to carry on. Go ahead, Heather.
So the vision of SharePoint is just, I'm assuming as we come into FinCom, you're going to bring up the SharePoint going forth, and we would eliminate all of this. That is the luxury of using SharePoint on a day-to-day. You're able to make decisions in real time with everybody together in a collaborative effort versus us piecemealing it.
Right.
That's the value of SharePoint, and I think that's the vision I think the town is trying to get to. But we need to make sure people have access to it. And I understand we all have different jobs, different hats. But just to understand where the town's going with SharePoint and how to utilize the tool. That's what I'm envisioning is what, when we come here, it's going to be up there for us to go in there. And, we can play around with different scenarios. Or we could go home and play with our own scenarios and go, I did this, this, and this. Here's my recommendation. Does anybody want to see what it is? And then they go and do it, and there it is. Your budget pops out for you. You see what you're doing, the changes and everything else. So I love what we're doing. So I'll get off my soapbox and remove myself. But
You're probably
Thanks,
not
Heather. Yeah. All right, let's carry on, everybody, then. So Matt, at our last meeting, we talked about some more money for snow and ice. Is there anything new on that? Is
So
that,
cross your fingers, we have enough money and supplies to get through this next storm.
okay,
Interesting.
After that,
we'll see what
we
happens.
have to come back to the till.
Okay.
Really? That's not bad. From the last appropriation.
Yeah, so from that one big storm, that was a really expensive storm.
No, we got it.
Yep.
And the surprise storm.
The surprise storm was a PIA, because that was not expected,
Yep.
and it ended up being a fairly expensive
It lasted
storm as well.
forever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
The best scenario for us is 8 to 10 inches of snow that comes, boom, and that's one or maybe 2 passes.
Got it.
But this stuff, that little ice storms that last 3 days, oh my God, it's expensive.
All right.
Okay. Jean, do we have any reserve fund transfers?
We don't at this time.
All right, let's go to meeting minutes, everybody, of January 25, not January 26. Thank you, Sandy. I did point out to Stephanie that your name is spelled K-U-I.
I saw that too, and I was like, whatever. Can't pronounce it anyway.
So any questions on the minutes, anybody, of January 25? Any corrections,
I
Jean?
did make a couple other changes within the document. I resent the minutes.
Right.
So I just want to make sure everybody's looking at that email from me.
Like 4 o'clock today or 3 o'clock or something, wasn't it?
Yes.
Or was it?
Earlier, yeah, it was earlier, yeah,
Everybody see the newer minutes that Jean sent?
yes.
Any comments or questions on that? Anyone?
Looked accurate.
We have a motion to approve those minutes as revised by Jean.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, Lynn's got the motion, Lynn Mazzulli,
Second.
Heather Moore in seconds. Any discussion? Jean, thank you for doing that, by the way. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Anybody have anything else that came up in the last 48 hours we need to talk about? Anyone? Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Sandy moves we adjourn at 8:34, seconded by
Second.
Heather Moore. And thank you so much. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. We are adjourned.